All right. Well,
recording right here, and then we got
we had pulled off of off the side of SR-71 about mile marker 5, and there was 4 or 5 of us that had parked on the side of the road. We was within the state of Nevada easement right away for SR-170, and the BLM had congregated down on the road going up to sheep troughs, and I was about 250 yards or so away from where they had congregated, 250 yards, and I got out and was taking pictures and video footage with my iPad and leaning up against my car, sitting against my car, and I could see that they were collaborating together. And then there was 3 vehicles, BLM vehicles, with at least a crew of 2 per vehicle, and they pulled out onto SR-170 and turned right towards Bunkerville. And then it was those same vehicles that turned around and come up behind Ryan and Bailey, and another vehicle had stopped, and I think it was just someone that drove by and was curious about what was going on, and BLM had turned their lights on and got on their loudspeaker and told everyone to leave, and anyway, they had just kind of moved down the road towards me, and I knew of a surety that I had First Amendment rights to express peaceful protest, and I knew I was on state land and had every right to peaceful protest. And so I just stood there, and before too long kind of became the exclusive object that were there, and so their attention turned to me, and they told me to leave, and I just stood there, and then the officers got close to me, and they said if I don't leave they will arrest me, and I expressed to them that they're expressing my First Amendment rights, and reminded them that I was within state right away, and that didn't seem to faze them at all. And Ryan backed up at that point, and I could see that they were getting ready to draw their weapons. Some of them had drawn their weapons, and so they told me again to leave, and I just calmly expressed that, hey, I am here expressing my First Amendment rights, and I have a right to do it, and I'm not going anywhere. And at that point, two rangers come up kind of to the side of me, and another from the middle, and the guy on the left rushed first, and the guy on the right come in next, and I didn't resist, but they were having, I didn't want to go to the ground very, very hard, very fast, obviously, and so they were having a tug of war, really. They were kind of working against each other, and then the third guy come in and was kicking and punching, and then a fourth guy, and finally went to the ground, and I had my hands like this when I went down, and they had my arms and things, and to protect my fall, and
hello. You're at work.
They kept telling me to
take it over today.
To give them my arms, but at that point a guy had gotten on my head. He had my knee, one of his knees on my head, and the other one on the back of my neck, and so naturally I was trying to protect my face from the gravel, so I wasn't giving him my hands very easy, and the thought across my mind. They had a dog there, and he was right there barking right beside me. They're going to turn that dog on me. And then I thought, oh, they got tasers. I'm going to get a taser. I thought, well, I'll give him one arm. So I gave him this arm here, and they twisted it up pretty good. And then I eventually gave him my right arm. And the guy that was the J Cox officer, he was the one on my head, and he just made it a point once I didn't have my hand to protect my face, he was going to make sure I ate a lot of rocks, and he just shoved and pushed as hard as he could. And I wished at that point that they weren't so slow in getting the handcuffs on me, because I was in quite a bit of pain by that point. But anyway, they managed to get the handcuffs on me and drag me to my feet. And then I looked at that J Cox officer, and I told him, I said, I don't let anybody tromp my face in the gravel like that. I says, I would like to meet you in an alley, is what I told him. And I hope the media covers that and he gets that message, because I'm still looking for him. Anyway, that's how it went down. They threw me in the back of the truck, in the back seat of one of their trucks. They took me up here to Toquap. And
what'd you see, Davey? What'd you see?
Well, I seen lots of wasted money. That was the first thing, and I reminded him. I did express my opinions quite a bit, and I mean nonstop. And when I got tired, I said, "You can't tire. You got to keep talking." And I was hoping to have at least the two that took me to Vegas converted before I got there. But and anyway, I sat in the back of the truck there at Toquap for about 3.5 hours, and I felt like I was their trophy, and they were even taking pictures. And eye for an eye, brother. And anyway, there was a woman that kind of seemed to be in charge, at least of what they were doing with me, and her name was Lisa Wilson. And she came into the passenger seat and was asking me questions. And I says, Mrs. Wilson, I don't have to answer anything to you. And she goes, to me, I am Officer Wilson. And I says, ma'am, to me, you're nothing.
Oh, awesome.
And she didn't like that. But anyway, I did, express my feelings to him, and I had an opportunity, and I was mad, obviously, but I did calm down, and I tried to talk sense and try to educate him as much as I could. And I tried to do that this whole the last couple of days while I was in incarceration. Anytime I had a chance to talk to somebody, even an inmate. There was a 20-year-old kid that had come in there and was rooming with us. He was in there for heroin. He was a heroin addict. I even talked to him about it. So, anyway,
did anybody photo anything during this time?
My iPad should have all of it on it.
Yeah, but we'll never get that back.
But we're trying to find it. I left it on the hood of my car. So.
And they impounded the car?
The car did get in. The BLM never impounded it. The Highway Patrol, I assume it was the Highway Patrol that called the city of Mesquite to have it impounded. And my wife's just getting it out now.
You're hoping it's inside the car?
She's not found it yet, but she's going to look in the trunk, look all over, see if she can find it.
They didn't say they had it?
No.
They have to itemize it.
No. And the things I had in my pocket, they did itemize it, and I got that stuff back.
How did they rough you up this morning?
The thing, in fact, is one of the worst experiences. The two officers came to the detention center there in Henderson and handcuffed me, and I was, my wrist was already sore and swollen, and they made a point to make it extra tight. It was even worse than the time when they took me down there, and the back seat was a little plastic bench. There was no leg room, no place for my arms to go, and so I rode from Henderson to the federal building with my head on the bar to relieve the pressure on my arms, and it was really painful. In fact, I told them, I said, this is far from humane. I mean, you guys need to loosen this, and they just completely ignored me, wouldn't even consider it. And then of course when I got to the detention or the federal building, they cuffed my ankles and put chains on me, and that's the way I was until they let me go.
Did they let you go to the bathroom?
I could go to the bathroom. I chose not to because it's pretty public. And
Did they take you in a courtroom? Did you ever have any charges filed against you?
No. Well, then that was the plan today. That's what I was supposed to do. Is they were supposed to give me a public attorney and see the judge today. But that
So
never
tell
happened.
us that feeling.
So why didn't that happen? Sorry.
The feeling you had when you said you felt like you was going to the
Well, there's just a lot of feeling of uncertainty. I laid on that steel bunk last night. I had to ask myself if I was really a criminal. You go in the cells, they close the door behind you, it's dark, it's cold, they issue a little blanket, have your little jumpsuit on, and I thought mostly of my family. Like I say, the uncertainty was the thing that was really hard because the thought crossed my mind several times. While I was in Henderson, I was in the city custody, but tomorrow I'm going to be in federal custody. And there is a chance that they could keep me here for quite a while. And I worried about my kids and my wife. There was a few times where I got up and tried to open the door. I couldn't imagine the thought of not being able to go home to my family. But I got to the federal building, and I just felt, there's lots of thoughts that went through my mind. I felt kind of ashamed to the Lord because it seems like I really pay attention to Him in times of need and not so much when things are going okay. And I actually had to humble myself and spend some time on my knees I didn't care who saw me. I would try to sing a hymn. Thoughts of my kids coming to my mind. And I did feel a lot of peace at times, and so I knew Heavenly Father was there. And then they'd taken me to a few different rooms. They had me talk to a few different people, and I started to wonder why the confusion. And then that officer came in and gave me those 2 citations. And they took the shackles off my ankles and on my arms, gave me a sack lunch, escorted me to the doors of the courthouse, and out on the street I went. I walked up a couple blocks to the 7-Eleven. I couldn't find anybody to let me use their cell phone. I didn't have any quarters to use the payphone. I only found one payphone, and it was being used. So there was a lady there that had a phone, and so I bought her some gas if I could use her phone. And you know, I felt like a transient. I was dirty, and these clothes I've not changed or showered for about 3 days now. But I was so glad to be. In fact, when they said they were going to release me, I was just looking forward to leaving that courthouse. And it was a really good feeling, and I didn't really care. I just enjoyed being in the sun and enjoyed walking up the street, and I was glad I was able to get a hold of my dad, and it was a sweet feeling when I seen that old truck come around the corner, and there's my dad. Well, anyway, that's how it went down.
So what were the citations for?
There was 3 originally, but the 2 that I ended up with that he wrote me one was resisting arrest, and 2 was failure to disperse.
Did they read you Miranda?
When I got to the detention center and they were unloading me, the guy said, "Oh, I just about forgot," and he pulled out the Miranda rights, and read them to me. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, "You don't need to do that because you don't have the authority to do it anyway."
Well, how many hours was it from the time that they took you down till the time that they read your rights?
Well, let's see. It would have been. It'd been 4.5, 5 hours probably by the time I got to Vegas, and they couldn't figure out how to get into the detention center. They had to go around the block 2 or 3 times, and I told the guy, he says, "Well, I guess you're gonna have to chain me up in your garage tonight." And I did get a chuckle out of him there. He did.
Was there, when you were trying to convert them with your information, did they ever give you any response?
Well, not a whole lot. I asked the guy, I said, "Do you have a law degree?" And he goes, "Yeah." I asked him where he went to school. And I asked him if he studied the Constitution. He goes, "Oh yeah, I know the Constitution." I said, "Well, this whole thing should be real clear to you. Then you should understand what the First Amendment rights, and it should be clear to you that you violated my First Amendment rights today." And he didn't say anything to that. They were pretty quiet.
Just doing their job.
Just doing their job. That was their response too, a lot of times. And I said, "Yeah, you would just be doing your job just by putting a bullet through an American citizen, weren't you?"
Yeah, that's just doing their job, hung Christ.
Just doing their job, yeah.
That's what their job is, to uphold the Constitution.
Yep.
swore an oath to it.
I appreciate that experience, and you know, I know that all your calls and everything. There's just no doubt. At the time, it was a question as to what happened, but now it's more clear to me. All of you guys rallied, and there's a lot of people that we don't even know about that rallied. And like I say, that Desert Valley Times newspaper editor, he said he made 7 or 8 calls himself. So who knows how many people made those calls.
The court,
Now start. Go.
Davey was released out of the federal courthouse there. It turned out on the street of Las Vegas, so he went down a couple of blocks, and there was a Stort and Las Vegas Boulevard. We met him there, and so we called the media so they would be there for witness. And so when we got there, the media come. We had Channel 8 and RJ, and anyway, there was quite a group of people around there, and Davey testified of what had been happened to him. So all of that's on radio and television and newspaper. In fact, before we left the parking lot, he was already on the TV. So,
Gee, aren't they fast?
Things really move fast.
That's what happens in modern day.
And anyway, so we come home, and when I left here this morning, there was government agencies all over. I mean, we must have passed probably 15, 20 cars just getting to the freeway, and we had a couple of them following us. There was some, partially blocking the roads. And today, when I come off the hill, I can see cattle down on the river, and the flags, and all these people here. What a beautiful sight. Freedom is really here in America.
Awesome.